Tonight, the COVID-19 vaccine receives a mixed response in Broken Hill's aged care facility. And South Australia prepares to dance at the pub once again.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. As COVID-19 vaccines roll out across the country, only half of Broken Hill's aged care residents say they want the jab. However, the CEO of the city's only residential care home says that number will provide enough protection.
Inside these walls live the most vulnerable to COVID-19. Residents at Southern Cross Care Broken Hills facilities among the first to be vaccinated in the region.
I think we'll be second phase, so around mid-March we should start to see our residents being offered the vaccine.
But just 50% of residents have indicated they want the jab. CEO Zoe Tonkin saying that number doesn't tell the full story and the vaccine may not be suitable for those with existing conditions or those nearing end of life.
All our residents will have those conversations with their GP.
90% of staff have chosen to receive the vaccine. That number should allow precautions to be reduced.
Masked, gowned, shield, the whole works in a hot, steamy bathroom for 45 minutes. You know, the staff have had to undergo some huge challenges.
While the vaccines don't stop the transmission of COVID-19, they do lessen the symptoms, helping to return to a more normal life. For the first time since the pandemic, visiting hours at Broken Hill Hospital will return to normal from Monday.
It is a momentous occasion, and it also reflects the level of confidence we obviously have in terms of how we're managing the pandemic.
Low testing numbers remain a concern. Reduced demand will see all COVID testing move to the Community Health Centre next week.
Please, if you're in doubt, go and get yourself tested.
Lachlan Itter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
South Australia will rejoin the party in a matter of hours as COVID restrictions on dancing begin to ease. Pubs and clubs are welcoming the move as good for business, with locals preparing to tear up the dance floor.
Following the moves of Ren McCormack, Port Lincoln residents are set to tear up the town.
I don't think everyone's got to learn how to dance again probably, but we'll see how we go. Hopefully we'll dim the lights so everyone doesn't get freaked out.
South Australia's government bowing to public pressure, lifting the ban on dancing after almost a year.
Everyone's happy as soon as they know you can dance. I mean, why wouldn't you?
From midnight tonight, licensed venues with a capacity of less than 200 people will be able to dance, while those hosting between 200 to 1,000 customers will require a COVID-safe plan and designated dancing area.
There's going to be some learning processes, and that the SAFE made it quite clear that they see their role is to support the industry and help them learn what the rules are rather than be out there pinching people immediately.
The Hotels Association welcoming the move after being crippled by COVID restrictions.
It's more than just the act of dancing. Dancing means that there's other people employed. There's bands, there's musicians, there's DJs, there's technical support.
Bars and clubs say it's a jump in the right direction, but would like to see further restrictions eased.
I don't think we need any capacity limits anymore because everyone's coming out, they're all mingling.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Local police have been left angry after catching a number of drug drivers within the space of just 10 hours. They say getting behind the wheel under the influence puts themselves and other drivers in danger. Katrina Musson has more.
Police are issuing a warning to motorists who drive under the influence after a number of drug drivers were caught across the region in the space of 24 hours. 5 were detected in Port Augusta and Port Pirie between 7 p.m. Tuesday and 5 a.m. yesterday morning, testing positive to methamphetamine and cannabis.
With 3 of the drivers testing positive to methamphetamine, 1 to cannabis, and 1 actually tested positive to both cannabis and methamphetamine.
Police left shaking their heads, saying the number of detections across the region in a short period of time isn't something they see often.
It's very disappointing from a police perspective and probably from a community perspective as well.
They're pleading for drivers to do the right thing. 15 fatalities have occurred on South Australian roads in 2021, the same amount at this time last year.
People know the risks. Driving under the influence of illicit substances and alcohol obviously forms part of the Fatal 5 offences, which we know contributes to fatal and serious injury collisions.
Those choosing to drink or drug drive are being warned. They will be caught.
If drivers are going to choose to consume illicit substances, then we do encourage them to consider themselves and other road users and don't get behind the wheel.
Police reminding the community they can test drivers anywhere and anytime.
Water restrictions will be lifted in Broken Hill and Silverton from Monday. The change will allow locals to water at any time of the day. Essential Water saying increased water flows have allowed the restrictions to ease.
Everybody in Broken Hill will be very pleased with that announcement. The weather's been fabulous, there's been lots of rain, so, time to look after the garden in autumn.
The announcement made as Councillor Tom Kennedy requested council right to essential water to determine why the town was still under Stage 1 restrictions. The State Emergency Service will continue to assist South Australian Police with its COVID response. Their partnership has been extended for another 3 months. 42 SES men and women will be continuing their roles in various COVID-19 operations, including at Adelaide Airport and regional checkpoints. It comes as the Pfizer vaccine is rolled out across the state. The deal also includes an option to renew the contract in September. Still to come tonight, Broken Hills Council returns to Chambers, and a Port Perry fashion designer turning heads across the globe. Welcome back. Aged care and health workers took to the streets in Broken Hill today, marching through the CBD to raise awareness of issues within the sector. Workers want to see increased government funding, more transparency, and the introduction of staff ratios.
No one really thinks that it's because it's the elderly, it won't affect us, but it will affect you one day. Be your mother, your father, brother, sister.
Organisers say the pandemic has drawn attention away from the issue. It comes ahead of the final report by the Aged Care Royal Commission, which will be handed down tomorrow. Broken Hills councillors have returned to Chambers for the first time since the pandemic in a marathon 3.5-hour meeting. Heated debate kicking off as September's election gets closer.
Back under one roof.
I wish to welcome everyone back to the chamber for the February Council meeting.
It's been almost 12 months since Council sat together. Mayor Daria Turley welcoming a return to normal, albeit sitting with councillors vying for her job.
We can talk to the staff before the meeting if we've got any follow-up before the meeting starts, especially on motions. Wanting to be informed, we could do that.
But it didn't take long for tensions to boil.
I'm not interrupting them. Okay. I'm not yelling out disgrace as they're speaking.
Tom Kennedy ramping up his mayoral efforts.
Because it's only a matter of time before one of the dead trees around town causes a significant injury.
Making tidying up the town one of his biggest priorities. He accused some of only taking action to remove dead trees and water existing ones because it's an election year.
Some people may give them a second chance, but they should judge them on the entire 5 years that they've been in office, not the last few months.
Council says it's working on a plan to be presented at April's meeting.
And the tree management plan is around turning a reactive process to a proactive process. So we'll get onto a regular routine where you're checking, obviously regular maintenance through pruning.
Lachlan Itter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Transport costs for South Australia's regional Year 6 and 7 students who travel to high schools on Transition Day will now be supported. The state government investing thousands of dollars in the initiative, preparing students for the big change.
Additional transport for country Year 7 transition days, a reoccurring concern for students and parents. The Education Minister says it's now being addressed.
It's going to be a unique transition, a significant one with 2 cohorts of students leaving primary school at the same time and 2 cohorts of students entering high school at the same time.
Preparing for the statewide move next year, $75,000 will be invested to help alleviate the extra costs of transport.
We do recognise at the end of this year the transition's going to be a bit different, so that's why we're putting in this extra support in.
The Minister says transition days are an important tool in preparing primary students for entry to secondary school. It's also an opportunity for students to participate in activities and familiarise themselves with their new learning environments.
Transition visits are really important to set students up for success at high school, and we welcome the government's contribution to transport.
Moving Year 7 to high school is really important to making sure our students get the best education that they can in line with the Australian curriculum.
All regional primary schools across South Australia, including those in Port Pirie, Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Lincoln, will qualify for the grant. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Mid-North fashion designer Torianne Gill has opened doors to a new boutique space in Port Pirie. Her label Dark Thorn will feature in the shop, and she's encouraging other regional designers to keep pursuing their dreams.
Styling Port Pirie, the local collective has officially opened its doors to a larger space.
Have the shop front, have other brands in here, and then be able to have a space at the back to actually work on Dark Thorn.
Her very own brand, Dark Thorn, a major focus of the shop. Growing up locally, she's determined to pursue her career in fashion while remaining close to home.
It was a lot harder to do it regionally because all the events and the networking events are in Adelaide or interstate, but I still did it because I love living regionally.
The hard work paying off with her brand walking the Paris runway in 2019.
And the hairs on my arm just stood up and tears were just flowing, and I thought, oh my God, this is silly, but it was just brilliant.
Now focusing her attention on the new space, she has a strong desire in showcasing local brands.
Try and focus on just South Australian brands, but I do get in a lot of Australian-owned brands too, just to fill out the shop, some beautiful brands that kind of blend together.
She's encouraging others with a passion for fashion to go for it, with many study options available along the way.
Visual merchandising, so like window displays and how to merchandise shops. And then I went on to basically the business aspects. So I studied like small business management, advertising and marketing.
You could still do it in the region, it's just a little bit tougher. But if you're flexible with what you want to do, yeah, sure, you can do it and just give it a go.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us, we'll check what's biting in the Spencer Gulf this week, and a new art exhibit on display in Port Augusta. A local Port Augusta artist has launched her first exhibition after reuniting with the paintbrush during the COVID lockdown, featuring a collection of abstract pieces. My Imagination Only paints a story from inside the mind.
Capturing imagination on a canvas. This collection of abstract artworks inspired by music and a time when the world was closed, yet imagination remained open.
It's the first exhibition of the year, and it's actually Christy Mitchell's first exhibition ever as well.
I certainly paint from an emotional perspective. It's very organic and spontaneous, so a lot of different styles, colours for people to come and see.
Reacquainting with the paintbrush amid spare time in the COVID year. She says it's helped her rediscover her passion for art.
It was quite overwhelming. I was very proud and certainly humbled by the support that I received and sort of affirmation that I think I'm on the right path.
The exhibition cementing a special milestone while also sharing the gallery walls with her dad. She says the canvases are already out at home, working on some new pieces.
Even though these pieces are hanging on the wall, certainly the inspiration and ideas have not stopped.
The exhibition will run until the 1st of April.
Come down, have a look. You know, if you're looking for some art for your house, make a purchase.
Katrina Musson, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Future nursing, education and social work students studying at Whyalla's UniSA campus are taking part in their very first orientation. The students spent the morning meeting their lecturers and fellow classmates. They say they are excited to start their studies.
Well, I came from Cleve and initially I wanted to study
secondary education, but knowing that they offered a primary education here when I first applied, it gave me the opportunities.
It's very important that they get to know their campus and get to know their staff and understand the support services that are available to them here at the uni.
UniSA says transition days are important to the students' learning. $29 million of Australian government funding will go towards helping South Australia's bushfire-affected communities. The South Australian Environment and Water Minister says the money will go towards 12 new developments.
Exciting to see this announcement. This is very much an injection into the bushfire communities affected in South Australia.
Among the projects, $3 million will go towards developing Onkaparinga, and almost $9 million will help rebuild agriculture on Kangaroo Island. Port Pirie has been riddled with an infestation of caltrop following a wet season for the region. Council is encouraging residents to remove any of these weeds by pulling at the root crown and placing into a plastic bag before disposing.
Doggies who get it in their paws, it's not a lot of fun, so not a lot of fun for humans either. Combat that, but we're advising that if anybody's actually going to do something about it, put it in a plastic bag and then let's put it in an appropriate bin so that we can make sure that we get rid of it altogether.
Residents can report caltrop sightings through the My Local Services app. Time now to check what's biting in the Spencer Gulf when we go fishing this weekend. Here's our experts with their tips.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel North. Well, the weather certainly doesn't know what it's doing. It's getting a little bit colder now and then heating up and getting cold again. There are some crabs around, but they're fairly patchy, so you just have to try around in the usual spots there. There's some really good kingfish up around the railway bridge, up around the top of Port Augusta there, and throughout there you could assume they're down the old powerhouse site. There's some good silver whitings still around. You always get them this time of year, but there are some really good salmon around the creeks and that too, so people have been getting some good catches of those. That's all we have from the Jewel North.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. Gosh, I'm so excited at this time of the year. It's been very, very cold in the morning, which is really scary for me walking. But I tell you what, it's good for the early squid that might arrive. The yellowfin whiting is still floating around, but the very last of that species we'll be seeing over the next month or so. Blue swimmer crabs are starting to really come into play, and we've got plenty of them from Port Davis right round to the top end of Ward Spit and Third Creek patches. You'll always find them. That's all we've got this week. We'll see you next week.
Hi, whalers fishing tips this week. Fresh tides, so definitely time to get out. There is bag limits of crabs coming from south of Whyalla down towards Mount Young. You don't have to go too far down. There is crabs absolutely everywhere, so get amongst those. Also be worthwhile trying down towards Cowlard's Landing. Make sure you stay on the right-hand side of the beach there, outside of the exclusion zone. Should be good raking for crabs out there also. A little bit further south of Whyalla, down towards Menini, good numbers of silver whiting coming in off the beaches, and north of Whyalla, Point Lowly has some good crabs in the local marina.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, the tuna reports have finally started improving. Most of the reports have been over the Coffin Bay side, so there have been some fish around Rocky Island, Greenley Island, the hummocks. Back closer to home in the bay in Port Lincoln, there have been some blue swimmer crabs caught by those dropping pots. Up at Tumby Bay, the group has been fishing really well for whiting with some big fish right up to mid-50s. There's also been a few yellowfin whiting off of the local beaches around Tumby Bay. Well, that's all for Fishing Tips this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
Stay with us after the break. Colour Tumby releases this year's lineup, and Alex Sykes will have the latest weather details. Hello again. This year's lineup for the Colour Tumby Festival has been announced, with 7 artists coming to town. Eyre Peninsula locals James Pedler and Ashton Filmer will make a return to the festival, as well as a handful of Adelaide artists. The scaled-back event will filter across town, helping spread out the crowds. The colourful event will feature alongside several other festivals, including the At the Bay event, Car Show and Adelaide Fringe. Colour Tumby will kick off on the long weekend. Let's take an early look at what weather we can expect over the weekend. With the latest forecast, here's Alex Sykes.
Thanks, John. Mainly sunny and cloudy conditions recorded across the Gulf today. From 3 p.m, Port Lincoln was cloudy and got to a high of 23. Port Pirie was sunny and 24 degrees, partly cloudy at Cleve and 22. Looking further out at the rest of the region now, Port Augusta sunny and 24, while at Kadina and Clare was sunny and 22. Broken Hill got to a high of 25. Woodna was sunny but also 25. Cooper Pedy had the region's top of 29. And Adelaide was partly cloudy and 21. Taking a look at the satellite image now, patchy low cloud in the far southeast with a weak cold front and onshore winds is causing patchy light rain. Skies are mostly clear elsewhere due to a broad high pressure ridge and dry air mass. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Southeast to southwesterly winds 15 to 20 knots, seas around 1.5 metres, and south to southwesterly swell below 1 metre. Mainly fine conditions across the Gulf. Port Lincoln 22, Cleve will reach a top of 24 degrees, Woodna mostly sunny and 29. Whale is sunny and 26, set to be similar conditions in Port Augusta, 29 there, mostly sunny in Kadina and a top of 25. Port Pirie sunny and 28, Clare 25 and a top of 29 at Broken Hill. Taking a look further through the week now, sunny conditions across the region on Saturday except for in the south, and we'll also start to see warmer temperatures than what we've experienced so far this week. Port Augusta and Cooper Pedy 35, 30 degrees in Whyalla, Broken Hill and Port Pirie 33. Heating up further on Sunday, 39 and sunny in Cooper Pedy, 36 degrees in Woodna, much cooler temperatures in the south, Adelaide 28, Port Lincoln 24. And cloudy on Monday in most parts, 41 and sunny in Cooper Pedy, however, 36 degrees at Port Augusta, Woodna and Port Pirie, 33 in Kadina and Whyalla. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. It's back to you, John.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Thursday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later, and we will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.